Hi guys, this is Connie, back for some more Connie Reads White Fragility. We are on chapter 5, which is titled The Good Bad Binary, and I believe this is part 2 because these are really long chapters, and yeah, I'm trying not to make like half-hour long videos if I can avoid it, sort of. New paragraph. The dominant paradigm of racism as discrete, individual, intentional, and malicious acts makes it unlikely that whites will acknowledge any of our actions as racism. For example, I often read about a government official, a teacher, or another public servant expressing shockingly racist statements and still insisting that he or she is not racist. Readers may recall a West Virginia County employee, Pamela Ramsey Taylor, who held a high-level position as Director of County Development and was suspended after posting racist remarks about First Lady Michelle Obama on Facebook. So it has, in parentheses, quote, "It will be so refreshing to have a classy, beautiful, dignified First Lady back in the White House. Period. I'm tired of seeing it says sick. So I think it's deleted. Ape in heels, unquote. End of parentheses. The mayor of the city responded, "Just made my day, Pam." Taylor's response to the ensuing uproar was, "My comment was not intended to be racist at all. I was referring to my day being made for change in the White House. I am truly sorry for any hard feeling this may have caused. Those who know me know that I'm not in any way racist." Although Taylor was suspended, but eventually got her job back, I'm left wondering what actually qualifies as racism in the white mind. When I talk to white people about racism, I hear the same claims rooted in the good-bad binary, made again and again. I organize these claims into 2 overall categories, both of which label the person as good and therefore not racist. The first set claims colorblindness. I don't see color, and or race has no meaning to me, therefore I am free of racism. The second claims to value diversity. I know people of color, and or have been near people of color, and or have general fond regard for people of color. Therefore, I am free of racism. Both categories fundamentally rest on the good-bad binary. Although I organize these narratives into 2 overall categories, they can be and often are used interchangeably. They don't need to make sense. They just need to position the speaker as a good person, free of racism, and end the discussion. Colorblind statements insist that people do not see race, or if they see it, it has no meaning to them. Colorblind claims include the following. There's a lot of bullets here, so let's go. Bullet 1. I was taught to treat everyone the same. Bullet 2. I don't see color. Bullet 3. I don't care if you are pink, purple, or polka dotted. Bullet 4. Race doesn't have any meaning to me. Bullet 5. My parents were/weren't racist, so that is why I am not racist. Bullet 6. Everyone struggles, but if you work hard, and then it continues, ... Bullet 7. So-and-so just happens to be black, but that has nothing to do with what I am about to tell you. Oh, so this is bullet 8. Focusing on race is what divides us. Bullet 9. If people are respectful to me, I am respectful to them, regardless of race. Bullet 10. Children today are so much more open. Bullet 11. I'm not racist. I'm from Canada. Bullet 12. I was picked on because I was white / I grew up poor. In parentheses it says, so I don't have race privilege. The second set I term color celebrate. This set claims that the person sees and embraces racial difference. Color celebrate. Color celebrate. color celebrate, or color celebrate, because that's what it looks like. Color celebrate claims include statements such as these. Bullet. I work in a very diverse environment. Bullet. I have people of color in my family / married a person of color / have children of color. Next bullet. I was in the military. Next bullet. I used to live in New York / Hawaii. Next bullet. We don't like how white our neighborhood is, but we had to move here for the schools. Next bullet. I was in the Peace Corps. Next bullet. I marched in the 60s. Next bullet. We adopted a child from China. Next bullet. Our grandchildren are multiracial. Next bullet. I was on a mission in Africa. Next bullet. I went to a very diverse school / lived in a very diverse neighborhood. Next bullet. I lived in Japan and was a minority, so I know what it's like to be a minority. Next bullet. I lived among the fill-in-the-blank people, so I am actually a person of color. Final bullet. My great-grandmother was a Native American princess. In my work to unravel the dynamics of racism, I have found a question that never fails me. This question is not, quote, is this claim true or is it false, unquote. We will never come to an agreement on a question that sets up an either-or dichotomy on something as sensitive as racism. Instead, I ask, how does this claim function in the conversation? If we apply this question to these two sets of narratives, one colorblind and the other color celebrate, we see that all of these claims ultimately function in a similar way. They all exempt the person from any responsibility for or participation in the problem. They take race off the table and they close, parentheses rather than open, any further exploration. In so doing, they protect the racial status quo. These typical white racial claims depend on an underlying framework of meaning. Identifying this framework can help us understand how we manage to make such claims in the context of extreme segregation and racial inequality. Imagine a pier stretching out over the water. Viewed from above, the pier appears to simply float there. The top of the pier, the part that we can see, signifies the surface aspect of these claims. Yet, while the pier seems to float effortlessly, it is, of course, not floating at all. It is propped up by a structure submerged under the water. The pier rests on pillars embedded in the ocean floor. In the same way that a pier sits on submerged pillars that are not immediately visible, the beliefs supporting our racial claims are hidden from our view. To topple the pier, we need to access and uproot the pillars. The above claims are all meant to provide evidence of the speaker's lack of racism. For example, in a conversation about racism, when white people say that they work in a diverse environment or that they have people of color in their family, they are giving me their evidence that they are not racist. If this is their evidence, how are they defining racism? In other words, what underlying system of meaning leads them to make that claim? If working near people of color is the evidence that distinguishes them from a racist, then evidently a racist cannot work near people of color. This claim rests on a definition of racism as conscious intolerance. A racist is someone who presumably cannot tolerate even the sight of a person of color. According to this logic, because they know or work with people of color or lived in New York where they saw people of color all around them and have spoken with and smiled at people of color, they cannot participate in racism. When we go beneath the surface of these claims, we can see their superficiality. For even an avowed white nationalist who would march openly in the streets chanting blood and soil can interact with people of color, and very likely does so. In fact, I have seen black reporters interviewing open and avowed white supremacists on television, with both parties proceeding calmly and respectfully. Those who claim to have been taught to treat everyone the same are simply telling me that they don't understand socialization. It is not possible to teach someone to treat everyone the same. We can be told, and often are told, to treat everyone the same, but we cannot successfully be taught to do so because human beings are not objective. Further, we wouldn't want to treat everyone the same because people have different needs and different relationships with us. Differential treatment in itself is not the problem. For example, I would give a document with a 12-point font to a person with low vision, or I'm saying it wrong. For example, I wouldn't give a document with a 12-point font to a person with low vision, even though someone else wouldn't have any trouble reading it. The problem is the misinformation that circulates around us and causes our differential treatment to be inequitable. The feedback I have heard repeatedly from people of color is that when they hear a white person claim to have been taught to treat everyone the same, they are not thinking, all right, I am now talking to a woke white person. Quite the opposite. Some version of eye rolling is taking place as they sign the white person off as unaware and brace themselves for yet another exchange based in white denial and invalidation. As a culture, we don't claim that gender roles and gender conditioning disappear the moment we love someone of the opposite gender. I identify as a woman, and I am married to someone who identifies as a man. Yet I would never say, because I am married to a man, I have a gender-free life. We understand that gender is a very deep social construct, that we have different experiences depending on our gender roles, assignments, and expressions, and that we will wrestle with these differences throughout the life of our relationship. Yet when the topic is race, we claim that it is completely inoperative if there is any level of fond regard. In an even more ludicrous form of reality, we can go as far as to claim that racial conditioning disappears if we can calmly walk by people of color on the streets of large cities. While the implication that a racist could not tolerate knowing, working next to, or walking among people of color is rather ridiculous, the sad fact is many whites have no cross-racial friendships at all. Perhaps this is why we rely on such flimsy evidence to certify ourselves as racism-free. But even those that have cross-racial friendships and use these as evidence of their lack of racism still invoke the binary of racist is bad / not racist is good binary. They see their friendship as proof that they are on the not racist side of the binary. Yet cross-racial friendships do not block out the dynamics of racism in the society at large, and these dynamics continue unabated. The white person will still receive white privilege that a friend of color does not, even when the two people exchange in activities together. Nor do these friendships block out all the messages that we have internalized and that are reinforced in this society. In fact, racism invariably manifests itself within cross-racial friendships as well. Racism cannot be absent from your friendship. Few people of color whom I've met have said that racism isn't at play in their friendships with white people. Some whites are more thoughtful, aware, and receptive to feedback than others, but no cross-racial relationship is free from the dynamics of racism in this society. Many whites believe that if they are not talking about racism with their friends of color, or if their friends are not giving them feedback about racism, then racism is a non-issue. But just because you and your friend don't talk about racism does not mean it isn't at play. Indeed, this silence is one of the ways that racism is manifest, for it is an imposed silence. Many people of color have told me that they initially tried to talk about racism with their white friends, but their friends got defensive or invalidated their experiences, so they stopped sharing their experiences. If racism is not a topic of discussion between a white person and a person of color who are friends, this absence of conversation may indicate a lack of cross-racial trust. The good-bad binary is powerful and enduring. In what follows, I offer counter-narratives to a few of its most popular claims. Notice how each of these claims labels the person, making them as not racist, thereby exempting them from further involvement or responsibility. And that gets ready to go into different types of narratives. We'll do one to start with, and then we'll end and begin part 3 in the next installment. Quote, I was taught to treat everyone the same. As explained above, no one can be taught to treat people equitably because humans cannot be 100% objective. For example, I could lecture you for hours that it is not nice to judge, that no one likes to be judged. You wouldn't, quote, you wouldn't want to be judged, would you? Unquote. And so on. At the end of that lecture, you would still continue to judge because it is impossible not to. We can try to examine our judgments, hold them more lightly, and so forth. But to be free of judgment, not possible. Nor can we treat everyone the same. Indeed, the person professing to treat everyone the same is stating a personal value, but the claim closes off any further reflection. Once we understand the power of implicit bias, for example, we know that we must deepen rather than close off further reflection. Although deeper reflection won't free us of unconscious, inequitable treatment of others, it will get us closer than will outright denial. And that's going to be the end of part 2. We have several different examples that we come to before we even get close to the end of this chapter. So, be careful with that and enjoy. Please and thank you. And I will see you for the next installment. Have a great one. Bye.